This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business that Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. Today's guest, well, I've done a few live events with Chris over the last year or so. We talked about networking last year. So it was about time we had him on the show to talk about his business and showcase what he's all about. So looking forward to having a chat with Chris. But before we do that, as always with these shows, just to remind you that I'll be talking about the 7-step process, which I wrote about in my book, Motivated. You can buy that book either from myself directly or you can buy it from Amazon. If you'd like to contribute to the podcast, just to keep the wheels in motion, as it were, then you can buy me a coffee. That makes a massive difference, just a small contribution. And if you buy me 2 coffees, then I will send you a copy of my book. So win-win. Well, that's what I think anyway. Anyway, for you to decide. Any contributions are really well appreciated, and it, as I say, helps to keep the wheels in motion. Right, with that out of the way, let's bring on our guest today. Morning, Chris.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, listeners.
Looking forward to our chat. Before we get into that, let's give you an opportunity to introduce yourself properly.
Oh, yes, good morning. Yes, for those that don't know me, my name's Chris Byrne. I run 2 companies, CSRB, which is a personal data specialist. I'm a certified data protection officer, GDPR, all that exciting stuff, good stuff. And then also I run B2B networking online. So that brings B2B business owners together online, as you might expect, to network, build relationships, and hopefully pass a little bit of business to each other. When I'm not doing that, I generally write comedy, attend a lot of comedy gigs. That's my counterbalance, obviously, to GDPR and data privacy, which can be a little bit dry. And I'm really pleased to be on this podcast this morning, and I'm glad that I could be fitted in around the product placement there, Mark, as well.
Yeah, I'll squeeze you in. Just anyway, I know you've got lots of value, Chris, and I want to start with your comedy, because I think, as I've told you in the past, and I actually gave you a book to make sure that you realised it, I think it's your superpower with regards to what you do and how you present it. Because as you've already alluded to, GDPR isn't the most exciting thing, but I'm assuming you're able to bring that to life by what you've learned from your comedy that you deliver and also what you watch in some way.
Yeah, it is. Very much my style's observational. Basically, you could also be called a stalker or a voyeur, but I prefer observational, and that is watching mainly how people interpret their requirements on a business level from a data privacy point of view, and on a more sort of relevant level of how I've learned to present it in a different way. I was at a data privacy conference actually only this Tuesday down in London in person. And it was really interesting listening to some other practitioners, some other data protection officers that very much talk about fines, talk about negativity, talk about, what you can get wrong. And to me, it's completely the opposite. I've observed the happier side of GDPR and how it can support businesses to grow, to support their teams, and I suppose in a way, achieve those motivational goals, I suppose, that they've got as well. So I try and explain through a little bit of light-hearted comedy how this is relevant to your organisation and your market sector.
Yeah, I reminded myself, actually, I met somebody that was into health and safety years ago, and she was almost very much, as you explained there, with regards to being negative about everything and really casting a shadow over everything. And I said, do you have any problem with people actually engaging in what you actually deliver? Because it all sounds a bit doom and gloomy. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, it's a serious thing. I said, well, I know it's serious, but, it's life. I know you deliver a really important thing, but actually what really people want is, can you help me? Can you solve my problem? And how can we actually make this work? And like you've explained, there is business benefits here. It's not just a tick box exercise.
Oh, absolutely. If I had a quid for every time something had gone to me, I can't market my organisation because of GDPR. I wouldn't be on this podcast now. I'd be on an island somewhere sunning myself because you can market your organisation. You can do that actually if you're a charity as well. For another example, you just need to tell people about it. You need to put it in clear, concise English. You need to make the statement relevant. Yes, it needs to be underpinned by a lawful reason. But if you get the right advice in place, that could be someone like myself, but it could be you could seek that elsewhere as well. You can do a lot of things to support your organisation, and that's a big motivator for me. Trying to get across that that angle of something, as you say, that is often considered to be legal, dry, tick box exercise, blah blah blah.
Okay. So you've alluded to the fact that data protection actually has some business benefits, not just something that you have to do as a legality. So give us some insights into the sort of things that you've been helping your clients with regards to using GDPR in a commercial way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I sit as an independent outsourced data protection officer. That's a bit of a mouthful. But what it means is I've got that complete sort of like, I can look at the whole scope of an organisation. I've got no preconception, so I can give you that independent viewpoint that you need. I always report in at board level because a data protection officer is a high-ranking role. And what it does is it gives them that ability to look at any risks. I can look at risk, I can look at impact on the business. But rather than just coming back with a risk register and saying that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, what I actually do is look at every risk as an opportunity. So it's that whole thing of, how can we move that forward together with your team and actually help you grow the business by identifying a risk gap. So that certified data protection officer support is so valuable. And we work with a number of sectors. I mean, at the moment, I'm supporting AI because you can imagine a lot of AI companies are very keen to get their service offering out there, but there are still a lot of us in the wider world that are worried about trust and transparency of where our data is going, basically, through the application. And the AI companies are genuinely, the ones that I engage with anyway, are very concerned about that, and they do care. There might be others for balance that don't care, but the ones that I've spoken to do. So it's about that reassurance, both to the business owners, but mainly to the wider public and the data subject. That's how I add value through most of the week.
But also, what I've realised is that, I'm remembering back to my retail days when I was given the DPO responsibility for the data that we collected was from CCTV at the time. And it was just another burden as to the things that I had to do on a day. It wasn't actually appreciated, and really it was one of those things that it was way down on my list of priorities. So if you're working in an organisation and you are that designated person, that has many benefits. And firstly, you're not giving it to someone that doesn't want to do it. And also you've got a real focus on actually it's a bit like AI at the moment. You need somebody on the board to actually realise that, there's opportunities that AI has, and we want to make sure that those things are discussed, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And again, data privacy, whatever you want, online security, GDPR, however you want to phrase it, it falls into that category of nobody gives you a manual when you set up a business on this. Generally, even if you come into a key role within a business, there might be a brief job description if you're lucky, but there won't be a long guide on how you become compliant. That's not overly helped at the moment by the GDPR regulation because there isn't a certification standard for GDPR at the moment. And we've got a new piece of legislation that will probably get royal assent in the next 3 to 4 months, general election pending, let's not go into that. So there's a lot of stuff changing all the time. So you do need to have that person that gets some genuine enjoyment out of learning the subject matter, which is what we do because we're certified, we're always going back to school and learning more, and that we can disseminate that out to that you've just said, that whether it's a retailer or a business owner, where data privacy, they know they've got to do it, but it's probably ranked down at 10 or 11 on their enjoyment list if you're lucky. So you need someone to engage, take that burden away from them, let them focus on their key motivations, which is probably going to be more around commercial aspects and aspiration aspects of their business, and we'll pick up the slack, basically.
Yeah, you've been an advocate of understanding what motivates you over the time. You've been on a bit of a journey, haven't you, over the years? You've done tapped into and completed several motivational maps over the years with me, and I've seen that sort of, like I say, how that has changed over the time. Actually, the things that motivate you haven't changed that much, but actually how you fulfilled them in your businesses have actually had a massive made a massive difference to your business. And I've seen how you've grown as a business owner. Back in the day when I first met you, you were I can always remember you're selling bins. If that was one of the things you sold was bins, but you don't do that anymore. You do a more highly specialised delivery of a service to a business. And that's where you get your enjoyment from, with being a specialist in the knowledge that you deliver to the organisation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think when we first met, to be fair, Mark, I think I sold anything. That's why I've got no relatives left. Because I sold them off to anyone that wanted them. No, but it was it got all that aspect. You're right. I was selling penguin recycling bins to schools and nurseries and whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
we've come a long way in 8 years. But yeah, no, it's been the motivational maps. Without doing another product placement, really good service offering and product, because what it does is it really focuses me in. And that sort of lends itself into a positive mindset, because what it's enabled me to do is work on not just the business that we've talked about a little bit there, but also my wider aspirations, which I know we might come on to in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been really helpful, being able to look at my motivations, where they are year on year. Have they changed that much? And then what I like about it is the report that you get off the back of it and the actual understanding. Because as I said a minute ago, I quite like still going back to school. I might be in my 40s. I know I don't look it, but it's like I do like learning about a subject matter. So, and then I will go and put those things into action. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I do like putting things into action. And that motivational map has been really helpful, alongside the continual professional development in the data privacy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like that. It's not about sort of promoting anything particularly with regards to my service, but it has it made you really focus on the things that are important to you. That's the thing. That's the whole thing. That's what this podcast is about: how people stay motivated. And you probably are the person who has most embraced. Actually realising that I need to perform at my best. I've got to make sure those things that are important to me are being fulfilled, and that's the key to that. So you've alluded to, you've got two businesses, and so you've got the GDPR business that we just mentioned, and also you have a networking business. So how did that all come about?
Oh, the networking business, yeah. Well, networking's been there from day one. I mean, the first thing I did was go to a networking group, even when I was still working for somebody before I officially got CSRB off the ground 7.5 years ago. So networking's been a big part of my life. I mean, I enjoy talking and I enjoy building relationships with people. So I've very much seen it as a relationship tool, not a sales tool. But of course, naturally, it develops into a sales tool. And and networking is probably up there for CSRB, around 85 to 90% of lead generation. So it seemed only natural after about 4 or 5 years of attending other networks that I thought, can I do something here for other people in my network that I know? It's not just about me. So we set up, and I probably had a little bit of a rant about another network one morning, I think, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I just sat there, got the old fag packet out as it was back in the day, got my pencil out and thought, do you know what? We can put a structure together here. So that was how the second business was born. That's coming up to 5 years young in July this year. And yes, we had a pandemic and we were meeting in person, and we've been online since obviously April 2020, so over 4 years now. And and the relationship that I've got in that network they help with some of the things we other talked about: friends, motivation, mindset, from my personal point of view. But then the amount of business that I know has been passed in that network over a 5-year period, just because I had a rant one morning and decided to do something about it. And I do remember the place where I had a rant. It had a really nice bacon sandwich. So sorry for any vegans out there.
Anyway, okay. But I think one of the things that is finding your place in the world and what you do well. And so you're happy with regards to being the person that's running the meeting. That's one thing. And I think with your stand-up comedy and being happy to stand up in front of people to do that, running a networking meeting is pretty much run of the mill, I guess, in comparison to having that sort of pressure to make people laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I write, as I said, I write observational comedy, and we might come back to it, but I write as a team of writers for sitcoms and whatever. So when I'm hosting, it might seem like it's about me sometimes, but it really is about, I want the other people, because there's something that's often missed out when you go to a networking meeting, be it in person or whatever. We all talk about return on investment, we all talk about not selling to the room, we all talk about those things, but there's actually something called enjoyment. Because with anything, if you're going to invest your time and your money in it, whether it's business or whether you're classing it as business slash personal or just personal, you've got to have some sort of enjoyment factor out there. So the amount of times I've heard, especially with online networking, oh, online networking doesn't work for me. It's awful online networking. I go, no, what it probably means is you've been to one that's been awfully hosted.
Yeah.
That's with an awful structure and with maybe not the right people in the room as well. If you can tick 2 or 3 of those boxes off, the whole network should benefit and hopefully have a good time when they turn up weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever your chosen poison is.
Absolutely, it's about enjoyment and making sure everyone there is getting something out of it. And if you start with having the pressure of getting a sale in the room, then that's not a great place to start, is it? Just get there, build your relationships, and it all happens from there. That's the key, isn't it, to networking?
Absolutely. When has Zoom or Teams ever stopped anyone networking? I've never understood this. Online networking is really bad. And you go, don't ever go on Zoom. It hasn't done anything wrong, has it?
No. I think we should also remember that we did a podcast about this topic, which you can still... I looked it up yesterday, actually. If you put in hashtag WWYRM, which is Why Won't You Refer Me podcast, then you will still find the opposite episodes that we recorded. We're all talking about networking and referrals and all those sort of things. So if you're interested, you'll still find them on LinkedIn, because that's the only place that we ever did them. So there we are. So Chris, one of the things that you gave me to talk about was travel. That's one of your passions. So more on a personal level is how do you sort of fit that into your schedule, seeing that you're running 2 businesses as well as trying to travel the world?
Well, one of the major benefits of being single, no kids, all that great thing, is the fact that I'm blessed in the fact some ways that I've got more time. I've got a bit more flexibility of movement, and I'm a bit of a nomad. I go and put my hat down somewhere, and a couple of years later I'll move on or do something like that. And I think the beauty about, should we say, the escalation of the embrace of technology, shall we say, post-pandemic again, is the fact that now I've got 2 businesses that I've deliberately worked on with both all my support networks, whether it's a business coach, accountant, mindset coach, motivational coach, whoever it is, they're deliberately both set up so that they are online. So I can deliver everything online. So that I can now pick my laptop up, for want of a phrase, and if I want to go and work from the beach in Spain on Monday, that's what I can go and do. So travel has been a big part of my life since I was young. We always moved around as a family. Actually, Mark, we're very similar to you. My parents owned 2 shops in retail, so we got moved around when we went to different shops and whatever. So we've always been on the move, and I've always embraced new cultures. I love finding out about new cultures. I've been fortunate enough to live and work abroad, and if you get the chance to do it, I'd suggest to everyone that you get the opportunity. So even if it's within the UK, just if you can, go and experience a new part of the UK, because it really does help with a fresh look at life, which is part of the motivational stuff. And also, it can really reinvigorate you from a business perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to live our lives stuck behind a screen, do we? I mean, obviously, you're still behind the screen when you're doing your stuff, wherever you are in the world. But, just experiencing the world, I think it's a good thing, just to widen your perspective of what's going on. So we were talking before we came on about our travels. You went to London, I went to the NEC, and the problems that arise when you're trying to get somewhere where, they obviously haven't got quite used to running big events in the NEC because it's only been there like 50 years or something. But my experience, but you actually meet people and have conversations that are off the cuff, and you just realise that the world isn't quite exactly as you thought it was, just by having a conversation. And that's it. It's just making sure that you're not getting blinkered in the views that you hold, because nobody holds one view which is correct. It's about understanding how everybody sees the world. That's how I see it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And from going back to the comedy point of view, for everyone that's listening, go to an airport or a train station. You've never seen such blind panic. It's absolutely fantastic. People lose the run of themselves when they get into airports and train stations. So for me, I can do a year's worth of comedy writing just sat in a terminal building at an airport, just watching people run around, crash into people, panic. They're going in completely the wrong direction from where their flight's going to or something like that. I mean, they've had 3 hours in Weatherspoons, but then they've got to run for the plane because it's mandatory if you're British. You've got to get a certain level of alcohol intake in before you fly to Malaga or wherever you go. You know, it's just like you watch all this with your European counterparts sat next to you that sat there with a little espresso, you know, really enjoying themselves, and you just have a bit of a chat and talk to a different person and watch this pandemonium unfold in front of you. You know,
Yeah,
seven
yeah.
kids flying behind the buggy as it goes past. So.
Well, it's funny how people react in unfamiliar circumstances, isn't it? And people try to cope with these things, and airports are classic for that. I heard the other day, I don't know whether it's true or not actually, but that there's somewhere in Austria where they've got a particular lounge for people that have booked to go to Austria when they were expecting to go to Australia or something like that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it just makes you laugh that people just go into this sort of panic, like you say, with regards to booking and where am I going and all the other things they've got to sort out. And you know, it's been a great experience, isn't it? You've got to, like you say, you've got to embrace the whole thing, and that's what life's all about.
Yeah, of course it is, and if you didn't move around, I think where you work as well, where you live, you wouldn't be able to feed into other things. So a lot of my comedy writing comes from having moved to different British cities, in particular, to make it relevant to a British audience, hopefully. And it's like, you know, I'm up in Greater Manchester at the moment, and like somebody said to me at an event yesterday, said, "Where'd you get your inspiration for comedy from?" I said, "The Co-op Live Arena." I mean, it's absolutely hilarious at how bad they can't run that. Do you know what I mean? It's just like.
Yes.
You can write a Ricky Gervais inspired sitcom. They are name check Ricky Gervais. You know, is that straight away just on the calamity that has been going on up here. Yeah, only 4 miles from where I live. And now they're not scheduled any shows down to the middle of May, so they've cancelled a load more shows. And you just think, okay,
Yeah.
we don't want the roof falling in, obviously, but did nobody think to check the roof before they sort of like decided to open the venue or something, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's who knows what's been going on there, but hopefully in a year or so time they'll be looking back and laughing at the experience. What on earth went on there?
Early June, Mark. I've got tickets, mate. Early June.
Have you? Oh wow. Okay. Well, fingers crossed. So with regards to, I want to talk a bit about how you keep yourself motivated. You've alluded a few things, and I think you've put a lot of effort into self-development over the years, haven't you? And do you want to talk a little bit about how you've approached that?
Yeah, very much so. And I'll say these things I'm a working class boy from North London, so if I'd have said words like mindset, motivational theory, support network, journey, because obviously I understand these days at every meeting you go to, you have to get the word journey shoot about 50,000 times, but all those type of things. But in all seriousness, by embracing all those things that I've just maybe sarcastically taken a swipe at, massive movements forward. You know, I've often told the story before of how my dad committed suicide in 2017. I've had a lot of, as you'd imagine, emotional baggage attached to that because I was caring for him for a long time before that. So by embracing the motivational factors, but also wider mindset support, I've achieved some incredible goals, you know, and I'm now currently working, for example, I mean, I've decided to neglect exercise for the best part of 42 years. I didn't realise I just made that a subconscious choice. Who knew? That's why I can't fit into this screen, I think. But what I've done is I've now got a personal trainer. Shouting out, I'm telling everyone, folks, that I can come into contact with. And yeah, I've lost nearly 2 stone in 3 months, really enjoying the exercise, but the other benefits it brings to your sleep patterns, to the way that you're quite energized throughout the week, and your engagements and stories that you can share with other people. So yeah, I totally agree, Mark. I think wider goals and painting that longer term picture of what the next 5 years is going to look like for me, away from the business. A business is a crucial part of it, of course, but you need to have those wider me goals as well, and be a little bit selfish. What do you want to do? You know?
Well, you have to look after yourself, and it's part. You know, there's a chapter in my book I talk about it because talk about sleep and making sure you're eating well and all those things that are crucial. It's all very well having a successful business, whatever you want to call it, but if you're not looking after yourself, what's the point? Because one day you're just going to keel over, or you're just not. Being the best you can be. That's the key, is looking after yourself, number one. The other thing I talk about is actually enjoying the journey. And I think with regards to that, people look at you when I say that and think, well, why would I want to do that? Well, actually, you can't expect anything to happen just overnight and just happen exactly as you thought it was going to. So you've got to enjoy the experiences, whether you have the knockbacks, things you thought were going to happen and they didn't happen. I mean, I expect you've got plenty of stories about you thought, oh, this is going to happen, and then it didn't. And things that you thought were actually a great relationship actually ended up being a complete disaster, and all those sort of things. You just got to cope with them, understand that they're just learning opportunities, and more mistakes mean that you're nearer to coming to that position where you're actually having the ideal business and you're running it the way you really wanted to, even though it might not have been your initial vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think as well, picking up on the journey part, that was a bit about your book, and it's available here as well.
Oh,
and
look at that. Product placement.
I know all product placement, I never thought. But away from that, on a serious note, I mentioned enjoyment with the networking earlier on, and you just mentioned it there. If you don't enjoy the journey that you're going to be on, I'd suggest changing it, because I don't really understand why you're going down that route. But you've got to enjoy the constituent parts that get you from A to B. And then you've got to enjoy what B is going to be. What is that ultimate goal that you've got at the end of it as well? And first time in 42 years without, bringing it down a little bit and saying, been unhappy, but probably have been unhappy both personally and with the businesses to a certain degree at various points of the last 10 years. I'm now in a comfortable place up here, so obviously mind set for those of you that are just listening. For the first time, probably in that jokey 43, nearly 44 years that I've been on the planet, and that really does make you smile. And then I don't give a monkey's what my mates say about me embracing the word journey every 5 minutes. I'm so much better than you now, so it's absolutely fine.
Chris, isn't it sponsored by the word journey, by the way, just in case?
Journey.
Right, I'm going to give you opportunities just to sit back for a little while, Chris. I'm just going to share a little bit with regards to the 7-step process which I share in the book, and just connecting the dots with regards to what Chris has shared with his journey. And so, first of all, this is always the first step which I get anyone that I start working with. It's got to understand yourself. You've got to understand not just about what motivates you, it's about character strength as well. You've got to make sure that you use them. And we've already talked about comedy, and that is definitely how I see one of Chris's real power things that he brings to the party that a lot of people don't, and you've got to make sure he uses it. So that's one of the things that I try to encourage him to do. Not that he should listen to me, but understanding yourself is key to running a business. Evaluating the right business for you is the next step. Understanding, connecting the dots with regard what is it I want from my business, and make sure the business is that it does that, and the part that you play in the business, whether you're growing it into a team, make sure that the bit that you hold on to and the bit you do is the bit you want to do, and not the things that nobody else wants to do. And that was definitely a mistake I made in my retail business. So you learn by your mistakes with regards to the more you do things, you understand the mistakes that are quite easily made by just doing the things you can do, but actually are they right for you, and also is it right that you do them for the business. Just move on to motivation with regards to a little bit of what we talked about here. Chris has been an advocate of doing a yearly motivational map, and what we've noticed with regards to his spirit motivator is key for him. He talked about the nomadic business lifestyle, that opening a laptop on the beach. Well, that's what the spirit wants to be able to do. They want to have the control and have the ability to decide how and where they run their business, know those things, so they're not being told. So that's how that is being fulfilled, by making your own choices. That's what spirit's like, and that's one of the Chris's top motivators. And another one of Chris's top motivators is expert, and that's why doing a business which has deep knowledge and specialism is key for what he does. And also learning, he's also alluded to the fact that he likes learning. So another thing about experts is they like to learn, and so he alluded to the fact that he went to London to learn more about what he does. So that's what drives him. And if you're fulfilling those things, you are going to perform better, because what it does, it gives you energy and allows those things that you really want from your business to be fulfilled, so you feel better. And that's as simple as that. When you feel better about something, you're going to do it better, and you're going to be more productive. So there we are, just a few things that I've sort of picked up in our conversation. Chris, any comments about what I've said?
No, apart from that, just to give the listeners some balance, or some nomadic balance, I will be opening a laptop in Greater Manchester today to right. Just in case you think I've got too much of a good lifestyle in data privacy. But no,
yeah, so you're not actually on a beach with, on the background being just a false background, trying to allude to the fact you're in an office. You're actually in an office in Greater Manchester. That's what you're saying.
I'm in an office in Greater Manchester, but if I laid the blue wheelie bins down and the sun glared off it in the right thing, it would look like the ocean a little bit in the distance. But that's as close as I'm going to get today. Sadly, it's one of those things.
Right.
No,
but you do have the choice to work from wherever you want to. That's the point. You just choose to do it from where you are today. So anyway. To do it give me my final reflect. Great. Thank you, Chris. I enjoyed unfortunately, the half an hour has whizzed by. You might be thinking, thank God it's all over. Who knows? But anyway, thank you for your time today. Really good to chat to you today. To reacquaintance ourselves on a podcast, which we've done a few times now. So thank you for your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed it.
It's been thoroughly marvellous. Really enjoyed it.
I did that purposely, because you do that to all the visitors to networking, just to put you on the spot. So just to get you back. Great. Thanks, Chris. I will catch you up very soon. Networking, I guess.
Well, yes, I suppose. Yeah. Goodbye for me.
There you go, Chris. Always. Well, he's actually got a great deal of knowledge about what he does. That's the important thing. But he brings another aspect to it, the way he presents it. And comedy is one thing, not that it's making it into anything other than something that is really important to a business. So if you have challenges around GDPR or all the things that we talked about with regards to maybe networking, then Chris is your man. Get in touch with Chris and have a chat if anything you think that he might be able to help you with. Right, just before we go then, just a reminder, not that you haven't seen enough of it, there's my book. And if you'd like to contribute to the keeping the wheels in motion with regards to the podcast, then you can buy me a coffee. It's well received. And like I say, it's just keeps the things in motion. And also what I did say was that once I've got to a point where I've got enough money, then I'm going to buy a Stream Deck to even make this even more, which is a bit of kit. So I don't have to keep clicking my mouse. Not that you need to know that. Anyway, but if you'd like to buy me 2 coffees, then you get a copy of the book. And so before we go, just thank you for anyone that's joined live. Hope you got some value out of it. If you catch this on replay, wherever you find it, then don't hesitate to reach out and send either myself or Chris any comments or anything that you'd like to ask us. We're always here to help. That's what we have in common. We want to make a difference to both of us. So if we can make a difference, then please reach out and let us do that. So that's that for now. We will be back shortly with another episode of the Motivated Business Show. But until then, take care of yourselves and see you very soon.